This is your friend, and we are back with a new fanfic. And if you enjoy the fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now, let's start the fanfic.
What if Naruto stopped pretending to be stupid? The genius hidden behind the orange mask. Chapter 1. Naruto was watching. That was all she ever did, was watch. She was a ninja, who was often looked over, or down upon, simply because she existed. The reason was because she was a Jinchuriki, the vessel for the Kyuubi no Yuko, who had attacked the village 13 years prior to present time, and had killed the Yondaime Hokage. Her village saw her as the fox, and hated her for what it had done. Yet, they also thought, aside from her being a demon, that she was a boy. After a horrible incident when she was younger, she let them all believe it. It protected her from any villagers that thought to get back at the demon by means of bodily desecration. If she was mistaken for a boy, rape was a low possibility for her. If that had happened, she wouldn't be able to look past it. Life had always been hard. The villagers made sure of that. She was only allowed into one grocery store, and one department store. The only restaurant in town that let her get near the door, let alone inside, was Ichiraku Ramen. In turn, that made her love the owner Tsuki, and his daughter Ayame to death. The young lady had been a great help to Naruto over the years. Besides the Hokage, she and her father, along with Naruto's two favorite people in the world, Hinata Hyuga and Iruka Umino, were the only people who knew that Naruto wasn't a he. So when lady problems started to arise, Ayame was there to lend a helping hand. To keep up her guise, she dressed in bright orange clothes that were extremely loose in the important areas, and wrapped her chest just in case. The top of her hair was spiky, and pointed in random directions. Halfway down the back of her head though, it grew long reaching to her waist. Not having the heart to chop off her best feature, she put it in a low ponytail, and kept it tucked into the back of her jacket. She spoke in a gruff voice, and purposely got into fights with the boys, rolling around in the dirt as much as possible. She even dreamed up a fake crush on Sakura Haruno. Or, as Naruto preferred, Pinky. No one suspected that she was faking stupidity. Failing the graduation exam 3 times was Kyuubi's idea. At those times, Naruto was at her loneliest, and failed so that she could stay near Iruka a little bit longer. She knew everything, with Kyuubi's help of course. She had no trouble with anything, but everyone had to believe that she was an idiot with an unattainable goal in order for her secret to be kept, and for her to remain underestimated. If they knew that she was smart and that she saw everything, they would all faint. That was why she watched. Because no one ever suspected her of anything. So, when the time came, she would surprise the hell out of someone and leave them dumbfounded. She enjoyed watching the Uchiha squirm. He was good at blocking his emotions, yes, but Naruto could still see the discomfort and agitation in his stance and gaze. Pinky was latched onto his arm, babbling about nonsense no doubt. She never listened because the girl was always ridiculous when she opened her mouth. The Uchiha looked ready to puke at whatever she said. They had been waiting for Kakashi for the past hour and she was too busy fighting to keep her laughter and to pay attention to anything else. The Uchiha noticed her smirk and threw her a seething glare. "What are you laughing at, Dobi?" he demanded. She shrugged and looked away. "Nothing, Tem." "Yo." Sakura was up in Kakashi's face screaming about how late he was. Naruto wanted to smack herself. She had been fixated in the Uchiha's torment, and forgot to jump up and scream with the pink-haired girl. Apparently, it didn't go unnoticed, because Sakura turned to give her a surprised look. "You didn't yell at him with me. Are you feeling well?" she asked with a surprisingly worried look. Sasuke and Kakashi both regarded her as well. She couldn't believe that one little mishap could get her the attention she had always craved. How ridiculous. She quickly thought up a lie. I was enjoying the Thames torture. She gave her best smirk, and snickered at the livid look on the boy's face. At least I have women on my heels, Dobby. What do you have? Nothing. The Uchiha smirked, thinking he had won. Naruto looked at him for a few seconds, before bursting out into loud guffaws. Why would she ever want girls trailing after her? Even if she was a guy, fangirls were creepy. They never gave the object of their affection a break, and she could honestly say that she was glad for being an uncool guy. There were no crazy girls sitting outside her house trying to get a picture of her and such. That would have blown her secret years ago. Her teammates looked at her like she was crazy. She probably looked it too. Her rival had just insulted her, saying that she wasn't good enough to get girls to hang off of her, and instead of blowing up like she normally pretended to, she laughed in his face. There she went again. What else would she forget today? Now they were going to be watching her. She was the one who did the watching, not the other way around. So why are you here, sensei? Would you like to hear about Sasuke's stalkers? I mean fans, she asked with a wide grin. That had the Uchiha fuming. Kakashi gave a crinkly eye smile. No. I came to tell you guys that I volunteered you for the Chunin selection exams. He handed them all a piece of paper and wished them good luck. He was gone before they could ask any questions. Sasuke smirked and turned to leave, with Sakura following, begging for a date. Why don't you go and do some training instead of bothering me? Seriously, you're worse than Naruto, the boy growled at her. Naruto flinched at the dejected look on the girl's face. Somehow, that boy had dozens of fans by being a complete asshole. How he pulled it off, she had no idea, but treating your teammate like that was just wrong. He really needed friendship counseling. Before she could comfort the girl, Konohamaru appeared, with his friends, begging for her to play ninja with them. Sakura made a snarky remark, which ended up with Konohamaru asking if the two were dating. The pink-haired girl turned and hit the little boy, sending him flying. Naruto rushed to the kid's side, and helped him up. Konohamaru moaned in pain before jumping and pointing at Sakura. She's a monster. And did you guys see how big her forehead was? He screamed. Naruto face-palmed herself. Of all the things for him to say, the kid had to go and say that. Sakura turned to face them slowly. Her face was anger personified. Naruto felt a shiver run up her spine when Pinky gave poor little Konohamaru that evil look. He didn't deserve what she was going to do to him. She spun around and began chasing after him. The boy was off, screaming his lungs out, and Naruto followed them, trying to think of a way to get Sakura to calm down. She drew a blank. Sakura never calmed down unless she finally got a good hit in. This wasn't going to end well. She caught up with them in time to see some kitten-dressed dork lift Konohamaru up by the front of his shirt. Sakura was stuttering out apologies to him, trying to get him to let the boy go. She was ignored and the guy, whom Naruto decided to name Kitten, was threatening Konohamaru. Hey kitten, let the kid go, she ordered with a glare. He turned to look at her and sneered, I'm not a kitten. Naruto snorted, okay fine, a clown then. Geez, people these days are so picky. Kitten's face went a startling shade of scarlet under the purple paint that covered his face. Why you little? Naruto watched as a pebble came flying at the strange ninja, hitting his hand, making him drop Konohamaru. She had to give it him. Sasuke was good. The fact that he'd followed them and hadn't actually gone home or something was touching in a sort of way. Sure, he was still a prick in her book, but he had gained a little respect from her, because of what he'd just done. You don't belong here. Get lost, said the Uchiha as he lounged on a tree limb. The other rock he was holding was crushed, and Naruto sighed at the theatrics, watching the dust fly away in the breeze. Kitten growled surprisingly well and turned to Sasuke, great. Another midget comes around to piss me off. Hey you, come here, Konkuro, stop it. Naruto was staring at the tree branch on the other side of Sasuke's tree. Blood-red hair and sea-foam green eyes stared back at her. It was a bit unnerving when said eyes didn't blink or look away. Gee Gaara, they started it, Hiden accused. The green eyes never looked away. Shut up. Or do you want me to kill you? Naruto shivered at that deep voice. The boy had to be around her age, yet he had such a matured voice. Sasuke didn't even have a voice like that. Neither did Shikamaru or Kiba for that matter. I'm sorry Gee Gaara. Hiden stuttered. Out of the corner of her eye, Naruto saw him raise him hands in a placating manner. The Gaara boy had yet to look away, so their staring contest continued. Konohamaru got off the ground and hid behind Naruto. She could feel his trembling hands clutching the back of her jacket, pulling on it. Gaara disappeared in a swirl of sand, and reappeared on the ground, beside his companions. He turned to give the girl behind Kiden a look. Let's go. We have more important things to do. Sasuke decided that he would join his team as well, and jumped down to Naruto's side. Hey you, what's your name? He called to Gaara. Sabaku no Gaara. You. The red-haired ninja countered with a barely noticeable glare. Sasuke Uchiha. The ego-inflated boy smirked, as if he was expecting them to know who he was. Egotistical jerk, Naruto thought with a frown. She turned slightly to pry Konohamaru's hands off her jacket. Let's go play ninja now. She started off down the street, opposite to where the Gaara kid was. Konohamaru stopped all of a sudden and grabbed her jacket again. Hey boss, what's this? He asked. She felt a pressure of someone yanking her hair, hard. Her head was pulled back as Konohamaru pulled harder. Ow, ow, okay. I don't want to go bald. She yelped, pulling away and cradling her aching head. That midget had a strong grip for someone so tiny. She pulled all of her hair out of her clothes and wanted to snicker at Konohamaru's amazed, ooh. She couldn't blame him. Her hair was amazing. It wasn't that she was being full of herself, it was the truth. Sasuke's best asset was his perfect skin, and Sakura had her eyes. It just so happened to be fact that Naruto's best feature was her hair. Sakura's jaw was on the ground and Sasuke's eyes were slightly wider than usual. The almighty Uchiha would never outwardly show emotion. Such a thought would be ridiculous of course. But he was, and Naruto had to work hard not to rub it in his face at the moment. And Naruto, is that really your hair? Sakura screamed in shock, pointing at the blonde. Naruto gave her a dry look. It was connected to her head, wasn't it? It was even the same color, so it couldn't be fake. Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon were all whispering about her hair. Moegi wanted to braid it, and Konohamaru wanted to see it in a ponytail. Udon suggested chopping it off, which caused Naruto to back up from him. Her face turned pale. I like my hair long thanks, she said nervously, with an awkward smile. Yeah, boss looks so cool with long hair. Leave it the way it is. Konohamaru shouted, bonking the boy on the head. Ow, okay. I was just saying, the boy rubbed his head with a frown. Naruto stared at her teammates, who had yet to look away and laughed, hi. Sasuke regained his composure quickly, and left down another street. Sakura was still standing in the same spot, mouth agape. Hiden and his two teammates were still there as well. The redhead was still looking at her. Your name? He asked with a tilt of the head. Naruto Uzumaki, the blonde answered with a brow. Are you here for the Chunin exams? She asked. He nodded. She sighed. Well, we'll see you there then. With that, she turned and led the children away from them. As she walked away, she could still feel Sakura's eyes following her. Was it really that much of a shock? The next morning, Naruto wasn't in the best of moods. The night before, some idiot tried to get her to give up on the Chunin exams, and she whooped his. It was so late when she got home, she didn't get much sleep, and she blamed it all on that guy. The walk to the academy was just like old times. It made her smile a little, remembering all the times she would skip, or come in late. This time was different though. This was the Chunin exam, and acting like an idiot wasn't to be tolerated. This time, she was early, and stood outside waiting for her team. Sasuke appeared a little while after she did. He paused in his steps to stare at her. "You're early," he noted with barely concealed shock. Naruto nodded. She then looked away, and pulled out a comb, pulling it through her long locks. When she was satisfied, she let it all hang down, deciding against putting it up. She didn't want to risk looking like Ino at all. Knowing her, she would complain about how Naruto had to go and copy her hairstyle, and that it would no longer be cool anymore, or something of the like. Ino was bitch like that. She also didn't wear a headband for fear of resembling Sakura. That would have been the most ridiculous argument ever if she had done that. Instead, she just let her hair hang free. Sakura showed up not long after Sasuke, and greeted them both, to Naruto's surprise. Sakura never went out of her way to be nice to her before, so what had happened? Naruto shrugged it off. It wasn't going to last, that was for sure. They entered the academy and trudged up the stairs. On the second floor, there was a big group of people causing a commotion. A boy, clad in a full-body green spandex suit, was on the ground, and a girl, Naruto assumed that she was his teammate, was helping him up. Two boys stood guarding the doorway to a room. The sign above said room 301, but they had only gone up 2 floors. Even though her genjutsu was pretty bad, Naruto could gather that there was one in place, even without help from Kurama. Yet, she couldn't help but wonder how everyone forgot that they only walked up 2 flights of stairs. She turned around and began to walk away. See, she was smart. She knows when to give up. One of the boys announced to the gathered shinobi. Naruto turned slightly and frowned at the spiky-haired kid, and told him a small lie. Actually, I'm a boy. And I'm going to the 3rd floor. Stairs are over there, she said, pointing to the end of the hall, where the other staircase was. So, you saw through our genjutsu, huh? Well then, the boy next to Spiky charged, fist raised. Naruto raised a brow, and moved to the side, allowing the boy to blow past her and fall to the floor. A wise shinobi never lets his emotions rule him, or death will be assured, Naruto quoted, remembering reading that as one of the shinobi rules of conduct. The boy glared, but remained on the floor. Naruto continued past him, Sasuke and Sakura catching up with him. Hey, how did you know that? Did you see the genjutsu? Sakura asked. Naruto shook her head. No, but I noticed that we only went up 2 floors, not 3. Sasuke and Sakura paused and looked at each other. What had happened to Naruto? Since when did he make observations like that? Naruto snickered. She was stuck between annoyance that she had once again showed that she wasn't an idiot, and mirth that she had shocked her team into silence. It was a hard decision, but she chose to be glad. Starting the Chunin exams off with a bad attitude wouldn't help her at all. Kakashi leaned against the wall outside the exam room doors. His team would be arriving, and registering for the Chunin exams, and he planned to greet them. He could only hope that Sakura showed up. She was the only one who didn't seem excited at the prospect of rising in rank. In fact, she looked about ready to bolt. He never told them that they could only go on when all team members were present. He didn't want the boys to harass Sakura. She had to come to a decision on her own. A few minutes passed, and Kakashi listened to the sounds of a scuffle happening somewhere down the hall. He could hear the attacks being landed, but couldn't hear any voices. Who was fighting this early on? The exams hadn't even started yet. Kakashi nearly fell over when he heard Guy's voice. Kakashi and I are arch rivals for all eternity. The man shouted. Nah, no way. Kakashi knew those voices. Naruto and Sakura. Why was Guy with them? Was he maybe fighting Sasuke? No, that was ridiculous, right? A few minutes later, and miniature Guy walked by him, giving a slight bow before entering the room. Maybe he was the one fighting Sasuke. Not too long after that, his own team showed up, right on time. He pushed off from the wall, and gave them each a once-over. Sakura and Sasuke both looked determined. He turned to Naruto and his jaw dropped and eye widened. What was with the long hair? Where had it come from? I keep it in my jacket all the time, Naruto answered when he asked. He shook his head, and gave them his, "I'm proud of you," speech. Then, sent them on their way. The doors opened and closed. The last thing Kakashi saw, was Naruto's swaying hair. The exam room was filled with shinobi. Naruto grinned in confidence, not at all affected by the glares being thrown their way. She had suffered worse glares her whole life. No way was she going to let that scare her away. Sasuke. Team 7 flinched at the high-pitched voice of Ino Yamanaka. Naruto moved aside in order to let the Sasuke-loving blonde glomp her crush. Sasuke threw her a frosty glare for it, but it was either that, or get bowled over in the process. Sakura was in Ino's face immediately, screaming about how Sasuke was hers and that the pig had to back off or else. Shikamaru and Choji walked up at a much slower pace than Ino. Man, you guys are here too. What a drag, Shikamaru groaned. Naruto snorted at Shikamaru. The lazy Nara had been using that line for years. It was nice to see that he didn't change at all. Shikamaru turned to look at Naruto and froze. Since when did Naruto have long hair? And why did he all of a sudden think that it made Naruto even prettier? Prettier? Where did that come from? The boy thought in slight panic. Ino also noticed Naruto's ad feature and gaped. Where did all of that come from? Naruto shrugged. I've always had long hair. I just never told any of you. Sakura looked ready to open her mouth but was stopped by Kiba. He walked up. Yahoo! It looks like the gang's all back together again. His teammates, Hinata and Shino, were behind him. Hinata broke away from them to approach Naruto. You finally let your hair down. It wasn't lost on the three teams that Hinata didn't stutter once. Also, they didn't miss the fact that the Hyuga heiress already knew about Naruto's secret. When the usually timid girl hugged Naruto, they were all shocked. Kiba stalked forward, only stopping when he was in front of Naruto. Is that really you, Naruto? He asked. Naruto held her breath when Kiba leaned in until they were nose to nose, and took a loud sniff. Shock flashed across the Inuzuka's face and he leaned closer, placing his nose in the crook of Naruto's shoulder. You smell like a... He was yanked away from the blonde by Hinata, who placed her hand over his mouth. She leaned into his ear and whispered something that no one could hear. The Inuzuka's face flushed. So, my nose wasn't wrong? He asked the girl. Naruto could tell immediately that Kiba had scented her. Having started her cycle a day prior, it was no wonder why he could smell her shift in scent. So now Kiba knew that Naruto was a she. Not exactly how she wanted to be found out, but, whatever. Hinata whispered something else into Kiba's ear and he nodded. What was your nose not wrong about, Kiba? Ino asked, butting into people's business like she normally did. Kiba looked at her, and then to Hinata, who subtly shook her head no. How Naruto was telling the truth, and that the hair wasn't fake. He covered himself quickly, throwing them all a grin. Sakura and Ino, who had been leaning forward in eagerness, deflated at the simple answer. Shikamaru gave the Inuzuka a look, saying that while he knew what the boy said was the truth, it wasn't what Kiba was originally going to say. Choji continued to eat his chips, and Shino only tilted his head slightly. Sasuke was staring at the blonde member of his team. You guys shouldn't draw so much attention to yourselves. The 9 rookies all looked over at the silver-haired teen with glasses. He was grinning at them as he came closer. Who are you? Sakura demanded in a bitchy tone. The team laughed. I am Kabuto Yakushi. I wanted to tell you that because you guys are the rookies, fresh out of the academy, you've already gained the attention of everyone here. Most of which have taken the Chunin exams multiple times and have failed. You don't want to get any more attention drawn to yourselves. A lot of them don't appreciate newbies coming in. Sakura gave him a look. How many times have you taken this then? Kabuto had the guts to look embarrassed. This is my 7th time. My 4th year, since they're held twice a year. The rookies stared at him in silence. They all glanced at each other in shock. Were the exams really that hard? But, don't count me out just yet. I did do some information gathering while I was here, so it wasn't a complete waste of time, Kabuto told them, pulling out a deck of cards. These are my ninja info cards. Anything about a competitor that you want to know, as long as you have a name or description, is all in here. Sasuke moved forward. Rock Lee, Sabaku no Gaara and Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto fixed the tem with a glare. What the hell did he want to know? Why couldn't he just ask her himself? Kabuto chuckled and swiped his hand over the deck, pulling out 3 cards. Here they are. He placed them down, and focused chakra into the first. Rock Lee graduated last year with props for his amazing taijutsu, though his other skills are severely lacking. His sensei is Maeda Guy, and his teammates are Neji Hyuga and Ten. He didn't take the Chunin exams last year because he wanted to train more. He's been on 42D rank missions and 18C rank missions, none of which failed. Kabuto focused his chakra into the next card. Okay, next we have Sabaku no Gaara, from Suna. His sensei is Baki and his teammates are Tamari and Konkuro. There isn't much about him. He's been on 8D ranks, and whoa. 1B rank even though he's a genin. That got everyone's attention. The guy had done AB rank. Even for those who hadn't met him, they could tell that the guy was dangerous. There's something else. Every mission he's had has been a complete success, Kabuto said with a shocked tone. Well, you said the bushy brow had perfect mission records, so why can't Gaara? Naruto asked, not getting the big whoop. He came back, completely unscathed. Shikamaru looked at the picture of Gaara and easily spotted the red head in the crowd of genin. Their eyes met briefly and he shivered. This guy's been on AB rank and had never been injured. This guy is bad news. Akamaru whimpered and snuggled into Kiba's coat further. Kiba knew how the pup felt. He didn't want to run into the Gaara kid either. Kabuto let the news sink in for a bit, before adding chakra to the last card. Naruto's picture came up, and all of her stats as well. Let's see. Naruto Uzumaki graduated this year after failing 3 times. Kabuto gave her a questioning look and continued. Genjutsu is non-existent, but taijutsu and ninjutsu are extremely high. Can perform the A-class jutsu, multi-shadow clone jutsu, and with his mastery of it, created another jutsu that is also considered a rank, called the All-Direction Shuriken. Another jutsu he created that utilizes the multi-shadow clones, is AB rank called the Harem Jutsu. Wow, his sensei is Kakashi Hatake, his teammates are Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno. Naruto wanted to know how Kabuto knew such things, but the teen continued on before she could ask. Knows Kenjutsu and Fuinjutsu. Both skills are very high. Has been on 68D rank missions, and 1C turned a rank. Took an IQ test a week ago. The result was an IQ of 189, which makes me wonder, Kabuto trailed off. He looked Naruto in the eye. Why did you fail 3 times if you can do all of this? Were you just pretending or something? People don't get this good overnight, you know. The rookies all looked at Naruto, who was trying her hardest to not glare at the teen before her. It wasn't working. She leveled him with her darkest glare and replied, "Yes. I did it for my own reasons, and I don't have to tell you why." Ino was up in her face in an instant. "Why the hell didn't you tell us? We all thought you were an idiot." Naruto turned her glare to the Yamanaka. "Why should I tell you anything? It's not like we're friends," she said with a frown. "And for your information, I told Hinata. She and I are friends." Since when did Hinata and Naruto hang out? It was a shock, especially to Sasuke and Sakura. They were on a team with the Dobi, yet they didn't know anything about the blonde. Yet, Naruto, who didn't spend noticeable time with the Hyuga heiress, had told the girl something so important. Shikamaru looked at Naruto in a new light. Wasn't Naruto the dead last like him? Yet, the kid's IQ almost matched his own. Kabuto had made a valid point and Naruto confirmed it. It was ironic actually. The two dead lasts in the academy were actually the smartest in their year. Probably the whole school. Shikamaru was too lazy and Naruto was faking stupidity. Why though? What could have happened to cause Naruto to fake? Shikamaru watched the blonde who was frowning at his female teammate. He planned on finding out. This was a good challenge for him. Ino wasn't letting it go though. "We were still in the same class though." Naruto full-on glared at her, causing the girl to shrink back in fear. "Hinata has been an actual friend to me all of these years. Even when she was ordered to avoid me. The others close enough to being friends would be Shikamaru, Choji and Kiba, and we didn't hang out all that much either save for skipping class together. So, I don't have to give you of all people, any information regarding my life. Mind your own business." Naruto then ignored Ino in favor of Kabuto. "So, how did you find all of that out? My sensei doesn't even know half of that stuff, 'cause I didn't tell him." "How did you came across such detailed information? And I would be honest if I were you. Seeing how you know so much about me, you should also know what you just got yourself into by digging around in my personal information." Her eyes took on a cold look. "Your answer, Kabuto." Her question got everyone's attention fixated on Kabuto again. Well, I gather info on anyone who becomes a genin. From Konoha or Suna or even Oto, that's so small it's practically non-existent. Kabuto explained, hands raised in a placating manner. A blur out of the corner of her eye got Naruto's attention. She acted immediately, blocking the attack that was aimed for Kabuto's throat with her sword. No one saw Naruto pull out a sword. 1 minute he was in one place, and the second they blinked, he was gone. Somehow, he had managed to hide a sword on him as well as use it to stop the Oto ninja that had attacked Kabuto. It was shocking. You seriously lost it over that? Grow up. Naruto sighed in annoyance, kicking the ninja away. He stumbled back as his partners came to back him up. Bite me. Naruto shook her head and twisted her blade, ready for another attack. I don't know where you've been, she sneered in disgust. A large explosion followed by a dust cloud appeared. When it cleared, there was a group of ninja, with a really tall man in a black trenchcoat standing at the end of the room. All right, that's enough. No more fighting. Get a number and sit down. The man in the coat ordered. Naruto sighed and stepped forward. To everyone's astonishment, the sword was gone. Where did it go? The genin couldn't linger as the first part of the Chunin exams was starting. They were given numbers and told to sit in their assigned seats. Naruto was lucky to have gotten a seat next to Hinata. The two girls giggled at each other before turning to listen to the rules. Naruto found it slightly odd that they were given 5 chances to cheat. It was like they wanted people to cheat. She glanced down at her test and sweat dropped. Of course that was what they wanted. The test was rigged with extremely difficult questions that most ninja would have to cheat in order to get the answers. Well, Kit, I'd like to see if you paid any attention to what I've taught you over the years. Expect no help from me. Naruto sighed. Kurama wasn't joking, it seemed. She was going to have to use logic, intelligence, and patience. She didn't want to sound like Shikamaru, but couldn't help it. This is such a drag. She looked the test over and memorized the questions. Then, raising her pencil slightly, she glanced at the clock, waiting for the perfect time to start. When the minute hand reached the 12, she began. Shikamaru, who was several seats behind Naruto, and off to the right, was looking at the blonde in shock. With the speed Naruto used for answering the questions, there was no question that he nearly paralleled Shikamaru in the intelligence department. This seemed to spur Shikamaru on. For the first time in a long time, he felt moved to actually do something without being forced. He felt the need to prove that the two dead lasts in the academy were indeed the smartest ninja to graduate. With his new determination in mind, Shikamaru set to work. He would prove that he wasn't some lazy, even though he was, and they would all see that he, and Naruto, were forces to be reckoned with. Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma and Guy sat in the Sensei Lounge, as they called it. During the Chunin exams, it was a room where the senseis could go to watch how their students were doing on the first part of the exam. Each got a television screen to watch their teams. It was better than all of them crowding around a puny screen, trying to see everything. Inside the exam room, there were cameras everywhere. This way, each sensei could see their students from a different angle. With the push of a button, they could change the view, and in turn, watch everything going on. Some of these kids are horrible. Kurenai sighed, watching how the same ninja got 5 kunai embedded in his desk in rapid succession. He didn't even wait before trying again. The Jonin senseis laughed. It was true. Some of the teams were terrible. Others, though, were outstanding. Sasuke and Neji were both using their dujutsu, making Guy and Kakashi proud. 10-10. Neji's teammate had somehow connected wires to a light fixture above her, allowing her to angle the reflective surface toward her last teammate, Rock Lee. I have to admit, her speed and accuracy in that is truly amazing, Kakashi complimented, causing Guy to erupt into tears of joy. Yes, Tenten's flames of youth are burning brightly today. The green-clad Jonin yelled. Kakashi wasn't disappointed to see Sakura flying through her test. She was top kunoichi after all. It was expected. He did notice how Ino, who's sitting far behind Sakura, kept her eyes trained on the girl. A few seconds later, Sakura put her pencil down and sighed, smiling like she'd just won a major victory. Ino chose to act, forming a hand sign, aiming it toward Sakura. The pinket's head hit her desk before she sat up and started to read her paper. It seems that Ino is proficient in her clan's jutsu. Kurenai smiled as Ino then used her mind transfer jutsu on Choji, writing down the answers for him. When she turned to Shikamaru, she paused. This got the Jonin's attention immediately. They all decided to watch the young Nara whose attention was fixated on Naruto. They all received a shock when they saw Naruto flying through the answers. Wasn't he the dead last? How could he possibly be able to answer the questions? Kakashi was impressed while the others didn't know what to think. They had all seen Naruto's test scores and knew for a fact that he shouldn't have been able to answer any questions. Yet, there he was, defying what seemed to be the laws of nature. They turned their attention back to Shikamaru, who was grinning at the blonde. With a nod of his head, Shikamaru looked down at his test, picked up his pencil and began to write. His hand a blur as he flew through the questions. Kakashi immediately saw what had happened. Hey Asuma. Didn't Naruto and Shikamaru have the lowest test scores? Asuma nodded silently, still not believing what he was seeing. Shikamaru was actually answering questions. He wasn't taking a nap. He finally looked at his Jonin companions. Yes, but I had him take an IQ test. He told me that the act of putting pencil to paper was a drag, so he never answered any test questions, opting instead to take a nap. The Jonin all sighed at the Nara's laziness. Kurenai was the first to react though. So, what was his score? She asked. Asuma stared at the screen, before giving his friends a smile. Well over 200. The Jonin all gasped, surprised that a genin could have such a high level of intelligence. Kakashi smiled, so Shikamaru was a dead last, even though he is so smart. With the way he's staring at Naruto, I'd say that Naruto, even though he was also dead last, has proved to be just as intelligent as Shikamaru. This, I believe, has spurred him on to prove that the worst ninja in the academy are in fact the smartest. The Jonin all watched as the two put down their pencils and both seemed to ease up. Like a great weight was lifted from their shoulders. Was it really possible for the both of them to be the smartest? Asuma couldn't say anything since he knew now what Shikamaru was capable of. Who's to say that Naruto wasn't the same? They continued to watch. Hiba had Akamaru to help him get the answers. Shino used his bugs and Hinata made good use of her Byakugan. Kurenai was proud of her team. Guy was watching the red head sitting on the far left. He had 2 fingers over his eye and his mouth was moving. Hey, look at the red-haired Suna ninja, he seems to be chanting. The other did so, and watched in veiled disgust, as an eyeball formed from sand appeared, floating next to the boy. He then reached out his hand and crushed it, causing the sand to disperse. I wonder what he said. Asuma mumbled. He called it the third eye, Kakashi told them. He was a master at reading lips, after having the Sharingan for so long. They all nodded, and went back to watching their screens. When the time was up, Guy let out a laugh. Would you look at that? None of the rookie 9 were marked for cheating, yet the more experienced ninja were booted out. You have trained your students well. The others smiled in pride. True enough, none of them got caught. 1/3 of them having actually used intelligence to pass. That was a good number. It showed that the next generation of shinobi was quite possibly a threat, even at their young age. Hiba watched the Uzumaki breeze through her test. Naruto was a girl. That kind of revelation can change someone's view in a short amount of time. The long hair and the spicy scent really made the thought of mating with Naruto appealing. In the bedroom, long hair could be used for many things. Akamaru whimpered at the change in his master's scent. Hiba sighed and calmed down, giving the Ninken a pat on the head. It's okay, boy. I'll calm down now, he whispered. On the other side of the room sat a redhead, who was staring down the blonde Uzumaki. That one. Kill that one. Feast on her bones. Her blood will be mine. Gaara grabbed his head as it throbbed in pain. Shukaku wanted the Naruto person. His sand shifted restlessly at the thought of offering the blonde's blood to Mother. Yes, we will kill her. Yes, she has power. Her powerful blood will make us truly alive. Gaara laid his head on his desk. Yes, I'll give you her blood, Mother. I'm a good boy, aren't I? Good boy. The dark voice cheered and the presence receded. Gaara sat up straight, eyes now boring holes into the blonde. I shall have your blood for Mother. Naruto watched as the proctor glanced at the clock and whistled. Pencils down. A collective groan met his order, and he threw them all a glare. It's time for the last question. You may choose, of course, not to take it. However, you and your team will be booted out immediately if you do. Well then, of course we'd take it. Why would you do that? Silence. Ibiki shouted. When everyone quieted down, he continued, you can take the question, but if you get it wrong, you fail automatically and you can never become Chunin, which means you stay Genin forever. Sakura was out of her seat in an instant, but there are people here who've taken the exams before. Ibiki grinned evilly, causing a shudder to run through them all. You were unfortunate to get me as a proctor this year. That is why I'm giving you the chance to quit now, or forever risk your career. The looks of horror were kind of funny. Naruto looked around to see hands flying up and teams leaving. Thanks to Kurama, she knew that the man was bluffing, and wanted to laugh. Yet at the same time, she found Ibiki's smile creepy. Like he was getting a sick pleasure from terrifying people. You read about him once. He's the head of the Konoha torture and interrogation force. Kurama told her with a sigh. Oh yeah, he has several thousand ryo over his head. No wonder he's enjoying himself. They sent him in here to scare the shit out of people. Naruto sighed as the fox began to laugh. Maybe old man Hokage was a bit sadistic, allowing such a person to proctor the exam. She wouldn't be surprised. Are you sure you want to give up, Pinky? Ibiki's voice woke Naruto up from her thoughts. She turned to see Sakura with her hand slightly raised. The Sakura, she demanded. Quiet. If she wants to quit because she isn't ready, then she can. But know this, Pinky. I can tell that your team will not be very happy with you if they have to wait till the next exam. Are you sure you want to risk it? But, I just don't want his dream to be over. Sakura shouted, pointing at the blonde. Naruto looked at Ibiki with pleading eyes. The man sighed. You have one chance to get her to stop. Any more talking after that, and I'll take points off your test. Naruto turned to the girl and laid into her. Since when did I ask for your fucking help? I'm facing this through to the end. I never go back on my word. That's my ninja way. How about you stop using me as an excuse and just admit that you're a scared pansy? Besides, if we fail, there are ways to go up a rank without taking these exams. Like if we go to war, and someone shows exceptional quality as a ninja, they can be bumped up in rank. So don't use me as your shield. Face the real world, and deal with your fear. Sakura stared at her in shock. The snickers of her fellow shinobi causing her to put her head and hand down in shame. She was scared, and was just using Naruto as a reason to get out of the hard work ahead. It was shameful. Ibiki watched the blonde with interest. Such an outburst somehow made all of the remaining ninja want to stay. The kid didn't seem to have any self-control, yet it didn't seem like such a thing would help him. Maybe brash actions were his way of getting across to people. When Pinky didn't make any attempt to move, he considered her answer to be that she was staying. Well, then, for the 10th question, I'm proud to say that you all pass. A moment of silence, before it went to pot. What? Pass? Ibiki was smiling, like Naruto when she pulled off an epic prank. You all passed. What about the 10th question? Sakura screamed, finally pulling her head up from her desk. There wasn't one. This was designed to see if you all had the guts to stick out a difficult mission to the end. Even at the cost of never rising in rank. The first 9 questions were to show us how well you'd do at gathering data. We even placed 2 chunin, with all of the answers, among you. Then, we had to see if you had the guts to follow through to the end, no matter the consequences for failing. Ibiki was grinning widely. The genin that remained were all staring at him in silence. Not something he was expecting. Cheers, laughter even, but not silence. He was facing a room full of bored-looking individuals. Awkward. The silence dragged on, and Ibiki looked at the chunin lining the walls. All of them were smiling at him and nodding their heads. Before he could speak, the window exploded and he stepped back in order to avoid the purple and tan ball that flew through the new hole. All right, you maggots, listen up. Ibiki sighed as Anko introduced herself. He couldn't help feeling annoyed with her. The large hole in the wall was bigger than normal. How many years had she been using the same entry? How much money was she willing to waste in repairs, just so she could show off? You're early, Anko, he told her. The woman chuckled and surveyed the room. 26 teams, Ibiki. You're getting soft. We have a more outstanding group this year, Ibiki smiled. She shrugged. Well, it doesn't matter to me. Half of them will be gone when I'm finished. I look forward to seeing who survives. The genin all shivered. For some reason, Mitarashi Anko was scarier than the first proctor. Now, follow me. The reluctant genin stood, some wishing that they had given up. Naruto, however, was excited. Nothing could ruin her mood. She was curious to see what lay ahead. Ibiki Morino collected the tests for grading. It was true that they didn't help the genin pass the first exam, but they did have purpose. Whoever passed the second exam, and the possible preliminaries, would have their tests to help them. Whether or not you win the Chunin exams doesn't guarantee you the rank of Chunin. Anyone who competes in the third exam, even though they lost their match, could pass. That was where the tests came into play. How the genin acquired the information will be taken into account when Ibiki watches all of the video in the cameras stationed around the room. This time, Ibiki was aware that 3 people didn't cheat. He was interested in seeing their scores. The room was nice and quiet as he graded the papers. His silence was disrupted when Guy burst through the door with a cry of dynamic entry. Kakashi, Asuma and Kurenai followed at a more leisurely pace. So, what's the damage? Asuma asked, lighting a cigarette. Ibiki sighed. Even with 2 people in the crowd who knew all of the answers, it's still pretty bad. However, all of the rookie 9 passed perfectly. The Jonin all smiled, proud of their students. What really got me though, is that even though all of them passed, 3 actually did it on their own. No cheating involved. Pure intelligence. Ibiki picked up 3 papers and gave them an approving grin. Sakura Haruno, Shikamaru Nara and Naruto Uzumaki, all have the intelligence required to be Chunin. I can't wait to see their abilities. If they make it far enough, they will most likely be Chunin when this is over, Ibiki smiled. Kakashi and Asuma smiled wider. They each had smart students who wouldn't resort to cheating. It was rare for anyone to enter the first exam and get all of the answers correct without cheating. In fact, the last person to do so was Itachi Uchiha, and before him, Kakashi himself. This would go down in the record books. Ibiki gazed outside, the hole providing him with nice view of the sunset. The Chunin exams would prove to be great this time around. He leaned back in his chair, a smile on his face. They sure would. Naruto stood outside the large forest. The Anko woman gave them a night to be all ready for their next exam. Maybe they were going to do an obstacle course. Once again, she was the first person from her team to arrive. Actually, she was first person to arrive, period. It was half an hour before the Suna team appeared. She nodded to them and continued to wait. Sasuke showed up a couple minutes later. He was shocked to see that Naruto was there before him. Sakura came along 10 minutes after her crush, and the 3 of them sat in silence, waiting for the other genin to arrive. When everyone assembled together, Anko held out 2 scrolls. This is a survival test. You will go into the forest. There is a tower directly in the center, an equal ground of 10 kilometers from every gate. You have 5 days to get there. The genin all nodded. It didn't seem like something so hard. You will also have to collect a Heaven Scroll and an Earth Scroll on the way. Each team will be given 1 scroll, and it's your job to get the other one. This exam is designed to test your endurance and survival skills behind enemy lines. It is also meant to cut the number of contestants in half. Anko smiled. Why? Someone in the crowd on genin shouted. The woman's mouth quirked upward. Do you know what we call this place? They all shook their heads. We call it the Forest of Death. Everyone shivered. It was official. People were going to die in this exam. Anko stepped forward and handed Naruto a stack of papers. Pass these around, would you? She did as ordered, and finally someone asked what they were for. Well, these are waivers, that all of you will read and sign. The death rate is high, and this ensures that Konoha will not be held responsible for anyone dying, Enko explained. She spoke as if everyone was going to die with no chance of escape. Once all of the papers were collected, they were all told to wait while the officials set up a stand to give each of the teams their scrolls. Also, don't open your scrolls in the forest. Why not? Someone yelled. Enko smirked. Trust me, you don't want to find out. Enko moved her arm and Naruto stepped aside. A kunai flew past her head and she turned, pressing her own kunai against the examiner's throat. Enko looked at her in shock. How did you do that? I paid attention, was the cryptic answer she was rewarded with. Enko stiffened when a creepy-looking woman handed her discarded kunai, with her long tongue. The blade was dangerously close to Enko's neck. Thank you, Miss Grass Ninja. But sneak up on me like that again, and you won't have a tongue anymore, the purple-haired woman threatened with smile. Sorry, I was just returning this to you, the strange ninja smiled, before excusing herself. Enko patted Naruto's head as she moved away. Make sure you don't die in there, kid. Naruto shook her head. The woman was crazy. Team 7 was called into the booth that the officials set up so they could get their scroll. It was a heaven scroll, and Naruto took easy notice of the black markings wrapped around the cylindrical part. When her team left the booth, she pulled them over to a shady tree and had them gather close. I noticed something, she told them. Kabuto pretty much told everyone in the Chunin exams my life story. Or half of it at least. I am very skilled in Fuinjutsu, like he said, and I think you guys should know. The makings for a seal are on the scrolls, she explained. They gave her an odd look, obviously not getting it. She sighed. There are all kinds of seals out there. To make a seal, you need to go through a system. Every seal is broken up into parts. Some have only 2, while the most complex seals can have up to 100 parts. All of the parts together make a seal. Just one part by itself, though, is nothing without the rest. Do you understand this much? Naruto looked at them. Sasuke seemed to be getting it, but Sakura still looked confused. Think of it like this. To use ice-style jutsu, you need water and wind affinity. You can't make ice with just water, you need wind too, and vice versa. Seals are the same way. You need all the parts together to make a seal, just like you need water and wind to make ice, Naruto said. Sakura's eyes brightened. Oh, so they're useless on their own until you put them together. Naruto nodded and continued. The heaven and earth scrolls each have parts of a seal on them. It's a simple seal that is only made up of 2 parts, and therefore easily split apart. By themselves, the parts are nothing, but if you laid one of the scrolls on top of the other after opening both, they will combine and create a seal. It is a reverse summoning seal, meaning someone will show up when we open them. But we were told not to open them. Sakura folded her arms. Naruto was surprised to see Sasuke smack his forehead. We were told not to open them in the forest. They said nothing about the tower when we finally get there, the Uchiha told her. Exactly. When we get there, we'll open them. Naruto nodded and smiled, glad that Sasuke was on the ball. You're so smart, Sasuke. Sakura's loud squeal could have broken glass. I didn't really do anything, Sakura. Most of it was Naruto. The emo-like boy sighed, no doubt annoyed with the pinkett. Oh, you're being too modest, Sasuke. You probably taught Naruto all of that stuff. The girl laughed, patting Sasuke's arm affectionately. She received a glare from the Uchiha and the Uzumaki. Sasuke frowned. I know nothing about seals, Sakura. How about you get your eyes off of me and pay attention to someone else for once? You're so annoying. The girl looked down, her heart seemingly crushed. Naruto flashed Sasuke a small smile and mouthed the words, "Thank you." He nodded and the both of them looked away. Sakura, never one to let her depression get her, was up once more. How can you tell what kind of seal there will be? There isn't much for us to see, you know. Naruto fixed her with a bland look. Who is the one that knows about seals? You. Exactly. So don't question me. Naruto then looked to Sasuke. Now, I can make hundreds of shadow clones. I think that as soon as we get into the forest, we should find a place to hide, and I'll make some. Some will transform into you guys and then they will spread out. Hopefully they can find out who has the scroll we need, so that we don't have to do any unnecessary running. Sasuke nodded in agreement. Sakura of course didn't get it and opened her mouth. Why are you listening to him? What does he know? Shadow clones are different than regular clones. They evenly divide up someone's chakra through however many you make, making it hard to tell if they are a clone or the original. They are also used for reconnaissance because any information they learn or experience they have, returns to the original person. It's an easy way to gain information. Naruto shot her a dark look, not appreciating how Sakura spoke about her. Sakura pouted. All right midgets. Get to your gates. Anko yelled, making everyone flinch. Team 7 approached gate number 12. In moments the ultimate survival test would begin. There would be danger around every corner. With days getting longer and the nights getting shorter, there would be little time for rest. The man guarding their gate looked at his watch. He turned and opened it, moving aside fast enough to avoid Team 7 who rushed in. In the cover of one of the larger trees, the three stopped and hid. Naruto then created 30 shadow clones, having 2/3 of them transform to look like Sasuke and Sakura. Then, she sent them out to go and find other teams. We should get going. The closer we get to the tower the closer we are to finishing this exam. Sasuke stood, making sure that his team followed. Sakura squealed something about Sasuke being an awesome leader and Naruto had to hold herself back from hitting the girl. She had to be the most ridiculous excuse for a kunoichi ever. Hell, she spent more time on her hair than she did training. They ran for quite a while, jumping through the trees before something shook the forest. This caused their landing to be shaky. Sakura and Naruto lost their grip and plunged to the ground. Sasuke was able to catch Sakura but a large gust of wind came and blew Naruto away. Naruto. Naruto awoke the sound of hissing. Please don't be what I think it is. She looked up, and was greeted with the sight of an enormous snake. Oh fuck. Naruto jumped when the snake lunged. Unfortunately, it was fast, even though it was so large. Naruto's world darkened slightly, and she found herself squished in between something wet and slimy. Oh gross. I got swallowed by a snake. She tried to wiggle around, but the area became more packed in and tighter. Naruto Uzumaki, taken down by a python the size of the academy. What a way to go. Naruto started to feel a weird tingling in her legs. What is that, Kit? You're in the stomach of an enormous snake. It is currently digesting you. I suggest you get out of there. Kurama informed her. Easy for you to say. I can't move. All you need to do is make one hand sign. What? How is that going to help me? Kurama sighed. Shadow clones Kit. Give the snake indigestion. Naruto felt like smiling. Why hadn't she thought of that? She forced her hands together and gathered her chakra. Next thing she knew, she was breathing fresh air once more. Her surrounding covered in snake guts. I can't believe I lost it like that. In defense, you'd never been swallowed by a large animal before. So, I still shouldn't have let my emotions rule me. Geez, I'm amazing in strength and intelligence, but my emotions totally get in the way. I'm going to be killed one day all because I can't control myself. Kurama was silent for a minute. At least it proves that you're still human. Being amazing at everything is too boring. Everyone has to have something to oppose their perfection. Take the Uchiha for an example. He's powerful and smart, but his attitude makes sure that he is in no way considered perfect, even if his leagues of fans think he is. Kurama had point. She couldn't be expected to know everything, otherwise, people would lose interest in her. That makes sense. Like how I at Genjutsu, so I learned Kenjutsu instead. Precisely. With her reassuring pep talk out of the was, Naruto headed off in the direction the weird grooves in the ground came from. She was sure that they came from the odd wind that knocked her so far away from her team. The run wasn't that long, and she was glad to see her team. The problem was, they were facing that freaky grass ninja that gave Anko back her kunai. That long tongue was waving about, and Naruto shuddered in disgust. Sakura and Sasuke were far away from each other, and Sasuke looked like he'd been through hell. The foreign ninja's neck grew to a ridiculous length, and shot toward Sasuke, who was still standing in the same spot. Naruto could tell he was afraid. His body was trembling, worse than when they faced Zabuza. He cried out in pain as the strange woman bit him on the shoulder. A blaze of purple erupted from the wound before the woman retreated slightly. Sasuke collapsed and Naruto took the chance to attack. Her hands moved through the signs like lightning. Demonic fox style. Unholy flames. The woman couldn't move and took full brunt of the attack. The black fire covering the immediate area. Naruto rushed in and heaved Sasuke over her shoulder, and deposited him at Sakura's side. Watch him. She returned her attention to the woman whose body was on fire. Yet, she seemed to be laughing. She made a hand sign and the flames surrounding her dispersed. His skin was charred, and looked to be tearing off, revealing perfect skin underneath. Like a snake shedding its skin. Well, that's quite the dangerous jutsu you have there. You might actually be a challenge, Fox boy, the ninja smiled, tearing the burnt skin off and tossing it away. Purple-rimmed gold eyes glowed eerily. Naruto frowned and made a sign, demonic fox style, raging furnace. The area, which was already lit on fire, burned hotter. The flames rose and closed the two ninja inside, finished the second part of the demonic fox attack. There was no way to escape, and Naruto formed the final hand sign, demonic fox style, burning judgment. The women's laughter paused. She quickly made a hand sign and began to sink into the fire beneath her. I will meet you again, young one. You may actually hold promise, she smiled. Once her head was gone, Naruto cancelled the jutsus and moved over to Sakura, who was trying to wake Sasuke up. She pulled on his shirt, revealing something dreadful. A cursed mark. Shit, she swore. Naruto, what is it? What did she do to Sasuke? Sakura panicked, crying loudly. No time. We need to hide, now. Follow me. Naruto slung Sasuke over her shoulder, grunting in the process. He was heavy. Sakura followed obediently, trying to calm down. They found shelter in the hollow of a large tree. Naruto placed Sasuke on the ground and used a kunai to shred his shirt's collar. The cursed mark was pulsing, and spreading. Okay Sakura, this is called a cursed seal. They are evil gatherings of chakra that make the bearer subservient to the one who cursed them. This is a more complex seal as it seems to react strongly to emotion. Currently, it's trying to take over Sasuke's mind and body. While it will give him power, it'll also cause him unbearable amounts of pain. I need to remove it, and I need you to guard the opening of the hollow while I work. Naruto locked her in the eye. Sakura nodded. I'll set up traps too. Just in case. Naruto gave a small smile. Good. Also know that when I finish, I'll collapse from severe chakra depletion. It'll probably be 3 hours before I can more again. Can you keep watch for that long? The Pinkett nodded and stood. Do what you have to Naruto. Naruto set to work, making the needed hand signs. Okay. All I have to do is erase one tomo in order to stop the seal from working. Then I can actually remove it without a problem. Kurama, when the time comes, I'll need your chakra. I'll begin storing some away now. She nodded and channeled her chakra directly into the seal. It reacted negatively and burned her hand. She kept still though. She had felt worse pain before. This was nothing. She did feel bad for Sasuke though. He was screaming and writhing. It was scary to see someone who normally represented the untouchable, who can't seem to feel pain, crying out like he was. The power began to weaken after a couple hours. Finally, one of the tomos couldn't handle the pressure from Naruto's chakra and cracked. It disintegrated, and Naruto smirked. The hard part was over. Kurama, I need chakra now, right? The rise in chakra made the area shake. Sasuke and Naruto were surrounded by orange chakra that was spinning and swirling around them. With a push, Naruto forced Kurama's chakra into the seal, and watched in unveiled pleasure as the accursed marking disappeared. Sasuke's screams died down, and Naruto sighed in relief when the seal was completely gone. It was done. Her knees gave out, and her body hit the ground hard. Thank goodness. I wonder why that woman put a cursed mark on him. The world fell into darkness and Naruto with it. Well, aren't you the little hero, saving your teammate like that? Shut up, Kurama. You know as well as I that cursed seals are dangerous. If there was someone there who could have helped you 12 years, wouldn't you want them to help? Kurama laughed. You do have a good point, Kit. Naruto sat up. The inside of her mind was always gross. It looked like sewer and smelled just as bad. Well, you haven't lived in here for the past 12 years, Kit. Think about how I feel. I wish there was a way to change it, but I don't have control over the seal. Kurama sighed. You would have to remove the seal and replace it with one of your own making. One that allows us to merge without you losing your mind. I agree. That time in Wave was pathetic. I don't want to succumb to it like that ever again. Naruto walked into the cage and sat in front of Kurama. Do you know what I have to do? The demon shrugged, tails twitching. I was never all that interested in seals. I'm a genius of course, but seals were never something I could bring myself to care enough about. Truthfully, you know more than I do in that department. With a huff, Naruto folded her arms and scowled at him. Aren't you 1,000 years old? Shouldn't you know more than me? No need to shout, Kit, I'm right here. Anyway, I do know more than you. But when it comes to seals, I haven't slightest idea how to create them and such. Deciphering is fine, but creating is a whole other story. Naruto looked around the damp room. Her new objective was to remove the seal and make a better one. One that would strengthen her bond with Kurama, and also pay him back for being kind to her over the years. He could have taken over and killed her, but instead, he guided her throughout the years, and was there for her when no one else was. She was grateful for it. Think nothing of it, Kit. That is the only thing that annoys me. I can't think in peace, because you always hear me and answer. Whether I'm talking to you or not. The great fox just smiled. Yet, you love me. She didn't answer, but he already knew that was all she had for such a long time. It was no shock that their relationship was close. Something is happening. Naruto stood quickly. What is it? The pink girl is in danger. She and a couple of others. You need to wake up. Well, gee, I'd love to, if I could. Kurama raised his fist. Take some of my power, otherwise we'll be dead in a few minutes. Naruto sighed and bumped his fist with her own. She felt the vacuum power her out of her mindscape, and she awoke to a horrible sight. Sakura and Rock Lee were laying on the ground, both looking terrible. Sakura's hair was ruined and sticking out as random directions. She noticed the sound ninja that she had defended Kabuto from was getting closer. What had happened? She closed her eyes and waited for him to get within range. She could feel his anger, and she moved in time to dodge the foot aimed for her face. What? He gasped. She grabbed his leg and pulled him down. She rolled on top and pressed a kunai to his throat. Do you want me to kill you? His eyes were round in shock. He shifted and Naruto stiffened. Was that dude gross? She leaned back and tried to move off of him. He grabbed the hand that was holding the kunai and kept it angled away from him as he placed his other hand on her chest. They sat frozen for a moment before he had to open his mouth. You're a chick. Naruto saw red. How dare he touch her like that? Kid, don't. Kurama's warning didn't register in her mind, and she lost it. Her eyes bled crimson and she snarled at the male who dared to touch her in such a way. Her hands locked around his own and she crushed them with all of her strength. His pain-filled scream was music to her ears. How does it feel? Does it hurt? He shook his head and she laughed, moving her hands higher up his arms. The sickening crunch made her smile. I think you enjoy it. Why else would you be aroused? He wiggled around, trying to get away, but she wasn't having it. Bad boy. We were just getting started. Kit, you have to stop this. If you kill him, you're going to hate yourself. Why are you protecting him? Naruto was furious. Why was Kurama getting in the way of a perfectly good kill? It's not for him that I intervene. You will feel terrible later on. Let him live, then maybe later on in the exams you can kill him, and be free from self-hatred. She sighed but nodded reluctantly. He had a good point. She didn't feel like having a guilty conscience. Especially over a prick. She removed herself from his body and stood. Grabbing the collar of his shirt, she dragged him outside. His teammates looked horrified when they saw her. With all of her strength, she threw their teammate at them. His body knocked into the other male and sent him flying into the girl. You might want to take care of his arms. They seem to have gotten injured. She smiled. The two sound ninja groaned and stood. The girl looked scared and the guy looked confused. How? Naruto laughed. Like I'd let that little pest hurt me. They stared at her for a few seconds before turning and leaving. You can come out now. Naruto called out to the clearing. Shikamaru, Ino and Choji came out of some bushes and Lee's teammates dropped down from the trees. Naruto looked at Shikamaru. What are you guys doing here? The lazy boy sighed. Well, Choji saw that Sakura was in danger and that you and Sasuke weren't awake. We were waiting for Ino to decide whether or not to help. She wasn't doing anything and in order for any kind of defense, we would all need to be together for it to work, but she was taking her time. Naruto rounded on Ino. You really needed time to think about saving your friend. Are you really Sakura's friend then, if it took you so long to come up with an answer? The blonde looked down in shame. Naruto looked over to Lee. He was unconscious and she felt bad for him. He had come to Sakura's rescue even when her own friend sat in the bushes wondering what to do. She knelt down beside him and checked his wounds. His left eardrum was damaged severely. Suddenly, she was glad for reading that book on the basics of medical jutsu. She placed a hand over his ear and watched as the green glow repaired the injury. You are a true friend, Lee, she whispered. Thank you, the boy groaned. She patted his head. No, Lee. Thank you. His teammates came over and she smiled slightly. He'll need some rest. Other than that, he's fine. They nodded and each grabbed one of Lee's arms. Thanks. Shikamaru had migrated to Sakura's side. I can't believe she actually cut her own hair just to escape her enemy. Then attacked them like that. So that was what was wrong with her hair. Naruto felt a little pride. Sakura removed her favorite thing about herself. Her long hair that she spent so many years growing out in order to impress Sasuke, was mostly gone. Even Sakura understood that your duty as a ninja came first. Before beauty and looks, life itself came first. Maybe Sakura had grown and matured. Of course it took a serious beating to get to her, but Naruto had a feeling that what happened was going to change the girl, for the better. Ino had yet to move from her place, and Naruto walked right by her. She didn't feel like wasting any more time on the blonde. Running a hand above Sakura's body, Naruto was able to access minimal damage. It was like she had just gotten through a bullying session. Nothing too bad, and nothing that would leave a scar. You did good, Sakura, she smiled. I'm proud to call you a teammate. Shikamaru and Choji moved off to the side and watched as Naruto took care of Sakura. He was very gentle in treating her, and they weren't all that shocked to see that he knew how to heal wounds. So, do you guys have all the scrolls you need? Naruto asked, trying to start a conversation. Yeah, it was drag though, Shikamaru yawned. She snorted, everything is a drag to you. Not everything, he mumbled, looking away. When Choji gave him an odd look, he shrugged. It's nothing, he smiled. Well, we still need to get our other scroll. When these two wake up, we'll be going, Naruto sighed. Sasuke was still sleeping, and she began to shake him. Come on, emo boy. We have to get going soon. He groaned and she huffed. She had half a mind to dump all the contents of her canteen on him. It would be funny to see him looking like a drowned rat, but he didn't deserve such a bad wake-up call. Maybe later, when he wasn't getting over an ordeal, she would. She grabbed his shoulders. Come on. Wake up, Sasuke. His eyes cracked open, and he groaned, HN. Even though he isn't feeling well, he still manages to sound normal. What the hell? Naruto found herself wishing she could do that. Usually when she woke up, her voice was cracked and pitchy. The bastard somehow was able to sound like he'd been awake for hours. It must be an Uchiha thing. I read that Itachi was the same. Shikamaru and Choji watched as Naruto proceeded to shake the hell out of Sasuke. Choji leaned into his friend and whispered, I think he's secretly trying to kill him and then he's going to pass it off as too many injuries. Well, if that's the case, I didn't see anything. Getting called in for witnessing would be a drag, Shikamaru told him. Choji gave his friend an odd look. Are you? Shikamaru slapped a hand over Choji's mouth, his eyes wide as he pointed over to Naruto. Choji looked and choked on his chips. Sasuke was holding Naruto in his arms, and was kissing the blonde. Naruto's arms flailed. Ew. Finally she paused long enough to think, while at the same time, trying to stop Sasuke's tongue from entering her mouth. She raised her hand, and smacked the back of his head. He let go and she growled, What the hell, Tem? His glazed eyes widened. You aren't a girl, he finally said. Although it was funny to watch the color flood his face, Naruto was ticked. So you just go around kissing girls whenever you feel like it? She screamed. I thought I was dreaming, Dobi. Dreaming about kissing me? Naruto shot back, with an irritated glare. His pink face became a nice shade of red. Shut up, Dobi. Shikamaru cut in that moment. Well, Naruto, he was injured, and seeing a guy with long hair, leaning over you, when your vision is less than adequate, tends to make you think things. He pulled the blonde away, ignoring the dark look in the Uchiha's eyes. Was the boy jealous? Shikamaru smirked and looped an arm around Naruto's shoulders. Give him a break. Maybe he was dreaming about Ino saving him or something. Naruto nodded slowly. We both are blue-eyed blondes with long hair. Okay, Tem, you'll get away with it this time. But next time, you're losing something important. Sasuke cringed and crossed his ankles, squeezing his legs together. Normally, a threat like that coming from Naruto wouldn't affect him, but then again, Naruto had been displaying unusual talents. Maybe the boy actually had the power to follow through with his words. Sasuke wasn't a fool to push the envelope. He didn't want to find out what Naruto was really capable of. He watched as Shikamaru drew the boy closer, and wanted to growl. That was his Dobi the Nara was touching. How dare that boy think he could touch what didn't belong to him? And even insisted that Sasuke Uchiha was dreaming about Ino Yamanaka. Sasuke glared holes into the boy's head, hoping that it would catch fire. He was pleased when Naruto pulled away, and moved over to a blob of pink. Sakura. Sasuke struggled to his feet, and hobbled over to her side. What happened? Naruto sighed. After I got blown away, you guys encountered a grass ninja. She was really strong and put you down fast. I came in at the right time and was able to chase her off. Then I had to take you and Sakura to a safe place, because the woman had done something to you. What did she do? Sasuke demanded. His Sharingan activated in the process, and he stared into Naruto's eyes, drawing the answer from the boy. She bit you, and gave you a cursed mark. They are very dangerous things that can cause bodily harm. Full of evil and bad energy. I had to get rid of the seal, so I used all of my chakra to break it. You and I were out of it for a few hours, and Sakura had to guard us. While we were out, the Sound Ninja attacked, and she held them off. Then Rock Lee appeared and he helped her as well. I woke up in time to avoid an attack from that guy who had attacked Kabuto when we were in the exam room. I then proceeded to torture him for hurting Sakura and Lee so much, and I scared them all off. Naruto explained. Shikamaru said that his team was waiting on Ino, but she couldn't decide if she wanted to help or not, so they ended up watching. He said that Sakura cut off her hair, in order to escape from the enemy, and then attacked with everything she had. I'm very proud of her right now. We should thank her when she wakes up. Naruto gave him a look. Sasuke looked at the girl in a new light. Maybe she wasn't as weak and useless as he had thought. Naruto was right though. She deserved their gratitude. Naruto moved the pinket onto her back and stood. If you get our things, I'll carry her. Most of my shadow clones dispersed, but one did so on its own. Apparently, one of them got an earth scroll, and is waiting with another clone by the tower for us. I forgot you did that, Sasuke murmured, gathering their things. Naruto turned to Team 10, you guys might as well come with us. You have your scrolls, and we have ours, so we can just go together. Shikamaru decided not to ask, and just nodded. Choji grabbed Ino's hand and the genin all set off. It did take as long as Naruto initially thought, and soon they were at the tower. Thank goodness, she smiled. Inside the doorway, they found a wide room. Naruto's two clones were leaning against the wall, and dispersed when they saw her, leaving a scroll in their place. Sasuke, open the scrolls now, and place them on top of each other. Team 10 watched in horror. We were told not to open them. Ino whined after hours of blissful silence. We couldn't open them in the forest. She said nothing about the tower. Open them, Naruto insisted. Sasuke did as he was told, and smoke rose from the scrolls. A loud popping noise rang through the room. A silhouette in the rising smoke told them a person. Naruto's eyes grew wide as the smoke cleared. Iruka-sensei. Her favorite person in the world was standing right there. She made sure to put Sakura down gently, before launching herself at the man. He laughed and swung her around. I see you guys made it. He looked over at Team 10. I suggest you guys open your scrolls as well. They did so, and their own sensei appeared before them. So why are you here, sensei? Why did they give us scrolls that make reverse summoning seals? Naruto asked, shocking the man. She just gave him a smile, and he sighed. Well, Team 7 tuned him out. He went into a whole spiel about heaven and earth being mind and body. Naruto secretly thought that he just wanted to use the chance to teach them something again. She cut him off with another hug. Thanks, Iruka-sensei. He paused and sighed. You're welcome. Congratulations on passing the second exam. The two teams bade their senseis farewell and moved through the double doors that lead to the next room. I'm going to find her a room, Naruto told them, motioning to Sakura. I'll come with you, Sasuke insisted, and waved at the others before following his blonde teammate.